about physical abuse now, and then of course I'll talk about technology
Oh,
based abuse, and we'll
thank you.
probably wrap up at that
Yes.
point.
Yes.
So of course we know what physical abuse is, right? It comes in different ways. It's one of the physical violence is one of the most prominent, forms of gender-based violence that people easily recognize, right?
Mm.
If it's slapping, if it's punching, if
Yes.
it's kicking, if it's even other things that you may not even want to refer to in that way. I mean, there have been
Yes.
situations where it wasn't someone physically hitting the other person or burning the other person. I mean, we just lost somebody, who was burnt, by a boyfriend, a
In
few days
Uganda.
ago. I think maybe about 2 days ago. Yes, and we're just
Yes.
having the conversation about that. But it's that, but not just that. There are other types of physical abuse. You hear newer and newer things every day. People constantly think of perpetrators constantly think of, right, to abuse their victims, the victims or survivors now,
Yeah.
as it were. Um, there have been times when, I mean, people get sprayed in the face with the pepper spray. That's
Mm-hmm.
physical abuse, right?
Yes.
Uh, Someone is constantly maybe pushing as a victim or survivor, to the wall, or just hitting them in a way that they have bruises in places that they cannot even begin to
Mm-hmm.
explain or describe or show to
Yes.
anyone. Of course, we know
Yes.
what physical abuse is, and I feel that physical abuse kind of sits at the top of the whole ladder of all the forms of
Yes.
abuse.
Yes.
So by the time an abusive situation becomes physical, that's the peak. And so I
Thank
constantly
you.
say that don't wait until abuse
Physic
becomes physical,
becomes
because
physical.
that's
Yes.
something that a lot of people don't understand.
Mm.
They ask you, are you eating? You're eating. Is he giving you money for school fees? Yes. So why are you complaining, right? Did they buy clothes for you? It's just like the way I see it is like you're talking to a baby, right? Are you eating?
Mm.
Okay. Are you breathing? Are you fine?
Are you
All of those
fine?
things do not rule out the fact that the person is going through abuse or going through violence.
Ooh.
It doesn't rule out the fact. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. It
No.
doesn't. I cannot count how many women I talk to on a daily basis. Some people who say that I am suicidal because of the situation, and I am constantly wondering, you're in
Yes.
this situation, what you need is to leave that situation for goodness
Leave
sake. And
that
of course
space.
I cannot say this, to some of them, because the decision to leave or not to leave should come from the victim or survivor, because agency must never be taken away from the
Mm.
survivor. Must
Yes.
never. The
You're
person must
right.
constantly feel powerful, must feel that they are in
Yes.
charge of whatever decision or whatever intervention it is that they're getting, or whatever support or service that they want. They should be in charge, of that. But it's really, really, important to highlight this. And lastly, I'm going to talk about, lastly now, of course, if I talk about naming and abuse,
Yes.
I'm going to talk about technology abuse. So there's one thing
Yes.
we need to understand. Perpetrators, abusers are very innovative.
Mm.
Very innovative. They're constantly thinking of newer and newer ways
Newer
to
ways.
oppress
Yes.
to oppress the victims and oppress survivors. They're constantly thinking of what newer thing can I do now that has never been done before,
Yes.
right? And so when we talk about technology abuse, a lot of people still don't understand what that is. Some people think it's cyberbullying. Yes, it is.
Mm.
It's a part of it, but it's not the
Yes.
only thing, right? Some people think it's cyberbullying. So cyberbullying
Yes.
can it ranges over a number of things. It can be sending messages. It can be tracking the person's phone to know where the person is. It can be going into the person's social media pages, taking over, hacking
At
those,
times
and
they
taking over
even
that.
yes. At times they find a way to take over the person's account and oh God.
Yes, yes, of course. So
These
they can take
people
over the person's account and start posting things about the person, as though
right?
it's the person posting this, but it's of course not the person posting that. And people are not going to know, right? They
No.
probably start posting pictures, start sending messages, asking for money. Sometimes if you get a message from somebody you haven't spoken to in a while, asking you for money. It might not necessarily be that some scammer has been able to hack into their account. It might be a perpetrator, an abuser using their account for that purpose.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Because these are the issues that are happening, and people need to understand how these things look like, right? So yes, it can look like that. It can be something like that. I mean, you take over someone's what's it called now, email, and then you also use the email to respond to send official emails, right, in an official capacity, and the person who is receiving this email doesn't know that this email I just received is from a perpetrator who has taken over, this person's, email address. It's still email. It's just like very weird like that. But one other part I probably like to now highlight is how technology is being used in more subtle ways, right? Now we are in an age where we are very dependent on technology. A lot of people are dependent on technology in this generation before us. I mean, a lot of people are very dependent on that. So dependent on their phones, but not just that, dependent on smart technologies that they can even use even within the home.
Yes.
Right. So you probably see people, using smart cookers, using smart home devices, different things.
Yeah.
People have microwaves at home. People have lights at home. People have different things like that at home. It's very easy for an abuser, for a perpetrator, to use those things to control the life of a victim or survivor in this situation. Wow. It's pretty easy. And let me quickly tell you why it's easy. I mean, people have inverters installed in their homes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If there is a system that gets the perpetrator or abuser now to manipulate that inverter in a way that it causes discomfort for the victim or survivor, that is a form of abuse.
My
gosh. Let me quickly add this. Many times when you want to install things like that, it's very gendered. And so, I mean, I'm saying this so that because we are talking about gender disorder, so we must understand what the issues are. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's very gendered. If you want to install something like this, if there's a man there, you're probably having that conversation with the man. You don't have that conversation with the woman. She probably doesn't know how it's being used. All you tell her is, press this place and it comes on. Press this one and it goes off. That's all she knows. She doesn't know what other ways that technology can be used to protect herself or to harm her, right? So she doesn't know. And you see, it's not just about, the perpetrators right there, right? It's everybody involved.
Yeah.
It's the people who are installing this technology. It's the people who are selling this technology.
Yes.
It's the people who are producing this technology. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's everybody who is involved. It's everyone who has one little piece at one point in the way. Who every single time they think of a tech guru, the image that comes to mind is a man.
Is a man.
Those are things we need to change. Those are things that need to change if we want to change anything around violence against women, anything around gender-based violence in general. Those are issues that need to change. The image, of success, the image of strength, the image, everything, once you're having that conversation, what the person is thinking of is, oh, this has to be a man. And so because so much power is given to the perpetrator now at that point. And now this is not to say, like we said it off at the beginning, it's not only men, it's not only women that face violence. We recognize the fact that men face violence. But of course we know women face this more. There are more reported cases for women. And so we will constantly refer to women every single time. And it's not just women, it's everyone who takes on an identity that is being marginalized. Right? It's not just about womanhood, right? Every identity that is marginalized.
Yes.
Every identity that is minoritized. Every identity like that can face violence. It's very clear. Right, so we see perpetrators taking over technology, to see how they can control women. Recently, I got talking with somebody, and the person said something funny to me, that there's a woman who, every time she gets online to have a meeting, a perpetrator in this situation just turns off the internet. I mean, as simple as that. We just switch off the internet.
As
And so,
basic as internet.
yes, as basic as that, right? So it's just like we're having this life, and there's someone just turns off the internet, and I'm no longer able to connect. And I'm constantly thinking, oh, maybe the network is bad. Oh, maybe, like just like you said earlier, maybe I should change to Airtel. Maybe I should change to MTN.
Yes.
Not knowing that somebody's actually manipulating that.
Wow.
Do you understand?
Wow.
It's really wide. I wish we had more time. I'll probably like gone drill down into each of these things I'm talking about. But it's really wide, and because we have very limited time.
Well, why the time is
like
limited is because I understand your schedules are always tight. So I understand that when we dive into this topic, is going to be wild, it's going to be deep, it's going to, because it's so huge. Now, while we're talking now, I'm beginning to learn a couple of things around this technology abuse, because what we've always had in mind, okay, yes, this is the tech age, this is what we're dealing with now, cyberbullying, stalking, hacking, and all of that. But now you are taking it to the home front, how technology can be used as a form of, I'm beginning to learn, and then my head is beginning to understand this thing in a different frame. So that's why I say is deep, but I understand that is, I wish I could just go on and on and on and on and on and on. But I don't know. If we can still spend another 20, 30 minutes, I will be good.
I'm not sure we have a to that. But I would I'll just probably wrap up this, by saying that we need to know how to name the abuse. Yes. Naming is very critical to understand what
is very essential.
Yeah, because when we talk about this, right, and it's not just gender-based violence. Every time you talk about gender-based violence, or you talk about anything related to feminism, or you talk about anything related to that at all, everyone thinks you're out to kill them, out to strangle them. Maybe you are attacking a group of people. If you are not an abuser, we are not attacking you.
Absolutely. Then you don't need to be triggered.
Perpetrator. If you're not a perpetrator, nobody is attacking you.
Yes.
And again, I mean that's just talking about violence, on that end. Another thing that is really, really important that we must understand is that it's not just about the perpetrator now, right? It's about the whole system. The whole system is faulty. I mean, I don't know if I had a chat with you at some point where I said culture and religion are not the root causes of gender-based violence.
Yes, we did talk about that. Yes,
they are. But it's the patriarchal system, for goodness sake. It is a system that places men above women. That is the system. That is the issue. And so if we have this issue replicated in culture, and we have this issue replicated in religion, and we have this issue replicated in the workplace, and we have this issue replicated in everywhere, gender-based violence we're just beginning, right? It's going to continue because it's constantly putting power in the hands of one group of people over another group. It's as simple as that. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it doesn't change anything. So if we are attacking this structure, I don't know who would ever be happy to live under a structure or in a structure where they're constantly oppressed, where they're constantly stigmatized. I don't understand it. Do you understand? So for me, I feel like if we're attacking this structure that has excluded women, this structure that has made women go through stigma, that has made women depressed, that has put women in a position where they're not able to have their voices heard. If you're attacking this structure, and if you understand as a person now that this structure is faulty, then we don't have any problem with you. If you feel angry about what we're saying, it's because you are the one that has a problem. It's as simple as that. You need to be the one that has a problem. If you're not a perpetrator, if you're not an abuser, if you're not committing violence, and we talk about gender-based violence, then you should not shift from your seat. You should raise the flag and join us. you know, in the struggle, and join us, of course, in advocating, you know, for the rights of women who need their voices heard.
Yes.
I was saying that lastly, I'm going to talk about naming. We constantly need to name the abuse. Naming the abuse is extremely important. You see, don't say the person was angry, the person didn't know how to manage his emotions. The person is committing domestic violence. You need to name what kind of abuse that is, right?
Yes.
Economic abuse is not a man saying, I'm not going to give you money as my wife because you didn't give me good money, because you didn't kneel down to serve me food. That is not what we are. I mean, we're not talking about culture. A lot of people mix all of this together and then they just get themselves confused.
Yes.
If somebody is doing that, that's economic abuse. You know, I watch things like Lord and I hear stories and I hear people say that, oh, he closed that shop, you know, because she refused to respect him. Yeah, he's teaching her a lesson. Oh yeah, let us name that. That's economic abuse.
Economic abuse.
It's economic abuse. Yeah. It's not different. It's economic abuse. Or you say, I don't even know what's happening. You know, I've not been talking to her. I told her that she must not go out. If she's coming home, she must come home at 7 p.m. No, you are being manipulative. That's a coercive controlling behavior already that you are exhibiting. That's emotional abuse. We constantly need to name it. You see, victims and survivors themselves need to understand, need to know how to name the abuse. And part of our advocacy is to make sure that people like that constantly name that abuse every single time, at every point, that when they see something happening to them, they know what it is and they know how to protect themselves. If we don't name the abuse, then how can we begin to talk about how the law protects people from witnessing?
Yes.
If you want to make reference to a law, then you have to first let the person know that this thing you're experiencing is wrong, right? And then you let them know that there's a law against it. You're not supposed to experience this, right? Some people think that in that abusive situation that they're experiencing is normal. That's how it's supposed to be, right?
Yes.
And so I don't know. I mean, as you've heard people say things like, if the man doesn't hit me, then maybe he doesn't love me. Maybe he does. Maybe he's not. He's not excited about the relationship.
And I thinking
ridiculous.
Something fundamental is wrong. I don't know how you look at this thing and call it love. I don't know the book of whatever religion or whatever sect you belong to that preaches that to you, that love is violence, love is hurting. From every book that I've tried to understand in every religion, they do not see love in that light. So that's when I hear people say those kind of things, I think something psychologically is fundamentally wrong. And then speaking of law that you're just talking about just now, I think we have a lot on our hands to deal with. And then we're not even, this is like us trying to scratch this issue on the surface. And then the only thing that we're holding on to help us fight this, to help us put these rights, to help us put these abusers and these perpetrators in their places, and somebody is waking up at the National Assembly to tell us that that thing cannot go through. I woke up one morning and then my tummy started aching me because I could not even understand it. Of all the issues that we have, unfortunately, he is from my senatorial zone. Of all the issues that we have to deal with, you think reappealing or whatever you want to do it, and up until that thing, that bill passed through the second reading, nobody knew that thing was happening. I don't think this issue, many persons understand it. It could be their daughter, it could be their wife, it could be themselves, it could be their sons. We've had issues of wives killing their husbands. So if that kind of person happens to find their sons in that kind of situation, now this law that is, this VAB law, this thing that is helping us to put some things in place, you have now gone ahead to desecrate it and then mess it up.
I think I must quickly add that I felt very disappointed and I was really sad, you know, at looking at that and seeing that news come to light. You know, everyone has fought so much. Of course, both of us on this call probably have been part of that fight, you know, to make sure that Nigerians had, you know, this law. And not just, I mean, thousands of advocates, of activists, you know, of feminists moving this to be sure, to ensure that we've had a law, against gender-based violence in Nigeria, and to think that this will be repealed. I don't even know what words, to use for this. What is the basis of this? And you see, this is what I'm saying. It takes us right back to the conversation around the patriarchal structure, for goodness sake.
Thank you.
Yes, because if the people who are involved are not the ones being affected. And it gets me really upset, when I see people come online and say things that they don't understand, right? It's not such a big deal. In the country where we are still fighting a lot of violence, because that is the truth. In a place where we are still fighting to protect women's lives. I know they say you're fighting to protect men's lives. Oh, yes. I mean, we're not talking about that right now. The thing is that we are fighting for the lives of women.
Yes.
So, no matter how you look at this law, it has, in a little way, in its own way, protected women, however little. So to think that even that one, is now going to be lost. I just felt like, you know what, and I actually said this to myself that day, we're taking one step forward, 1,000 steps backward. Because for goodness sake, this is 2024. So what are we doing?
2024.
So what are we doing? Like, what is the future? What does the future hold? Where is the hope? Where is the hope for the woman who is facing violence? You see, even when this law came into effect, I don't know if you remember around that period, it was very difficult for us to even domesticate this law, like
for states to domesticate it. Yes,
for states to domesticate the law. But it wasn't just about domesticating the law. Even after the law was domesticated, before that law started to be implemented, like through the court system, it took quite a while.
Yes.
Even now, it's still very difficult. Sometimes you go and report. We're the ones. Sometimes you go and report at the police station, and then you let the police know that I know my right. This is the law. Do you understand? Because it was quite a new law. A lot of people were just coming up in that, trying to understand what that was. There's been a lot of advocacy on the VAP across all the states in the country. What happens to all of those things? What happens to all the translations that have been done? This law has been translated into different languages. Advocacy has gone on in the most remote parts, of Nigeria.
Yes.
And now you just wake up one morning and with one strike, the law is gone. Where's the future? Where's the hope? Oh, you see, this Facebook Live is not to make people lose hope. It's to make people understand the severity of the situation, how tough and how difficult the situation is, and how people need to step up. People need to wake up to understand that this is not a fight against men, please. This is a fight for the lives of people, of which women are a huge part of. It's as simple as that. And if we don't fight for this, you never know who is going to be the next victim. Now we are doing justice for Christiana, and I am tired because we keep doing justice for one woman or the other every single time. How about let the women stop dying? How about let the people killing them stop killing them?
Killing us.
How about that? How about that? I don't think it's too much to ask.
It's not too much.
We don't want to be killed anymore. I don't think it's too much to ask. We don't want to experience violence. It's not too much to ask. And so anyone who comes into either physical or cyberspace to say otherwise, I'm sorry, I don't want to reason with that person, right? Because the person is not experiencing what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
People who are in this, who are experiencing this, understand what the issues are. And if you feel that we are on this life are angry, or we are passionate in the way we are talking about these issues, it's because we know what is happening on the ground. And we have decided that we are not going to allow that to continue. We are saying no to that.
That's it.
But we cannot be apologetic. We can never be apologetic about calling out violence. No. We can never be apologetic about naming the abuse. We can never be apologetic about saying that we no longer want to be oppressed. We no longer want to be killed. There's no one who will keep quiet in the face of death, for goodness sake. Because this is the kind of situation we are talking about.
No one.
So it's I would just probably like begin to wind up, of course,
Yes.
talking about this, right? Everyone needs to get on board. I'm happy that this is going to be a series, of course, so we're going to have time to talk about more things later. But
yes, no, definitely
everyone needs to get on board. Everyone needs to understand what the issues are.
Yes.
As somebody who's worked as a frontline worker, I've experienced seeing victims, survivors of gender-based violence die. I know the pain of losing them. I know the pain they suffered up until the time they died. I know the pain that their families have had to go through afterwards. How does we prevent this from happening? If this is not a one-person job, it's everybody. Everybody needs to get on board. It's not about pointing at people's fingers. It's not about saying that you're saying this. It means that you're saying that women are better than men. Forget about all of that. Nobody's talking about it. We're talking about survival. Survival is the most basic thing, and we need to stick to that. I mean, we'll probably stop for today there, because it's just a lot. We can't continue this like another time, of course.
Thank you. And to everyone who joined us today, I want to say thank you. And like I said from the onset, she is an authority. She's an expert. I might be a sociologist. I might be a gender and development student, but she is an authority when it comes to gender-based violence. And thank you. And for everyone that joined, this is just like a pilot phase of this whole series. We are going to be having more of this conversation. And just like she rightly said, we cannot be sitting on the fence and watching things go bad. No, we're going to be speaking up. And yes, if you think gender-based violence is just about women, no, it's not just about women, because when you have that mindset, you probably will not want to get yourself involved. Gender-based violence is all about all gender. Yes, it could be your brother today, it could be your sister tomorrow. I could be the victim today, it could be your neighbor tomorrow. So what are we saying? Women are the most vulnerable group when it comes to gender-based violence. And that does not mean gender-based violence fight or struggle is just limited to women. We all need all hands to be on deck to get this thing right. And thank you for joining us. And to our amazing guests, we're looking forward to hearing from you in our next episode. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a joyful and a restful evening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful